Hi, I'm Kelsey Romeo Steppi, Managing Attorney at Action on Smoking and Health. For the past several years, part of my job has been working on our tobacco and human rights program, and a big portion of that is on human rights reporting. There's been a lot of interest from our partners on human rights reporting, so I wanted to do a quick video to give you a walkthrough and some ideas on how to get started. It's a fairly complicated topic, so if there are any questions, please feel free to contact me afterwards. So first, I'm just going to walk you through the 5 W's of human rights reporting: who, what, where, when, why, and additionally how. So the first is what. What is human rights reporting? Under the United Nations, there's 9 core human rights treaties. Several of them have to do with health, which we can tie into tobacco, but we tend to focus on 4. Those 4 are the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, or the CRC, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, otherwise known as CEDAW, and the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, otherwise known as CERD. These core treaties each have a treaty committee, and every government that is party to these human rights treaties must report to that committee in every cycle. Cycles are usually about 5 years long, and most countries around the world are party to all of these treaties. So there are a lot of opportunities for governments to report back to these committees to talk about what they're doing to protect people's human rights. So why would you get involved in this? Everyone has human rights, like the right to health. Governments have a duty to enforce those rights, and human rights bodies encourage governments to fulfill those duties. So, for example, take CETA, which is for the protection of women. A lot of tobacco industry advertising targets women. When your government is reporting, they may not think to include or may choose not to include in their government official report that anything about tobacco at all. So civil society has the right to do a parallel report and submit to the committee as well, discussing issues that you think are important for them to know. So who? As I mentioned, civil society organizations, which in the United States we frequently call nonprofits, are welcome to submit these parallel reports. In some situations, an organization needs special status with the United Nations, which is called consultative status or sometimes ECOSOC status. ASH has this status, and we're more than happy to help any of our partners who would like to submit a report. So if you happen to come up against something that requires ECOSOC status, please feel free to get in touch with us and we're happy to help. Where and when? When, the schedule varies by country and by treaty body. So for example, Sweden might be reporting on CEDAW this year, but the CRC in 4 years, Convention on the Rights of the Child, while I don't know, Uganda might be reporting on the Racial Discrimination Treaty next year and the Convention on the Rights of the Child 4 years from now. So it varies a lot. It goes in cycles, and you have to just keep an eye on the UN website to see what's coming up. So where? Electronically, all of this information is stored on each treaty committee website, but the most centralized location is to go look at your country on the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights website. They also have the links to the treaty bodies that you might be looking for, but it's by far the easiest to go to their tab at the top of their screen. There's a place to click human rights by country, and then you pull down your country. You'll see the treaties that your country has ratified, and if you click on them, you can see when the next reporting cycle is. The treaty committees are based in Switzerland largely, in Geneva. So how do you submit a report? What are the technicalities? Each report is a little bit different for each treaty body, but they're usually approximately 3,000 words for a single organization, and they double for a group. So if you have a coalition of people signing on to your report, that's better. You get a lot more time. They're usually due at least 3 weeks before the hearing date. They're all submitted online now. it's important to include both positives and negatives in your report. So if you're submitting a report on how tobacco impacts children in, we'll go with the United States, we would want to include positives and negatives. Like, for example, that the smoking age has been raised to 21 in several localities in the United States. That's a positive, but the negative is that the tobacco industry is still targeting them with advertising. So it's important to go through and highlight some pluses and some minuses, and particularly illustrate what human rights are being violated and how specifically they are being violated. So the right of children to a healthy environment is maybe a good focus if you want to talk about litter or secondhand smoke. So you need to tie in a couple different rights and discuss them very specifically. There are examples on our website of reports that we've done in the past. Please feel free to take a look at them. And as always, please feel free to talk to us. Our Tobacco and Human Rights Hub has a lot of resources for the different treaty bodies now as well. And that's ash.org/HR Hub. And also importantly, the treaty body reporting is not the end, it's the beginning. You have to follow up, or you have an opportunity to follow up. The committees allow civil society to come in and make oral statements, so you can encourage the committee to challenge the government about what you've discussed in the government's hearing. So you have the opportunity to appear before, for example, the Convention on the Rights of the Child and say, please ask my home government why they are not banning tobacco advertising and protecting the rights of children. So you can follow that up. You can do social media campaigns, media campaigns. It's very important to illustrate to the public that the tobacco industry is violating human rights. Most people don't think about it through that lens, and we've found that it can be very powerful. So it's really important to follow up. So that's my quick report on human rights reporting. There's a lot more to it, and I'd be more than happy to help walk you through if you're interested in doing a report. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope you will follow up. Thanks so much.